The Central Bank of Nigeria has increased the maximum weekly limit for cash withdrawals across all channels by individuals and corporate organizations to 500,000 and 5 million respectively. The CBN said this in a letter addressed to banks on Wednesday. The Apex Bank said it made the decision based on feedback received from stakeholders. Meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has written to the House of Representatives explaining why he would not be able to honor the invitation sent to him in person. The letter sent to the House by the CBN governor was read by the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, at the plenary on Wednesday. The House had invited the CBN governor to explain the various policies recently introduced by the Apex Bank, especially the currency redesign and the cash withdrawal limit.
We are now financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed, who joins us virtually from Lagos to provide a bit more perspective on the issue. Good morning, Mukhtar.
Good morning and compliments of the season.
Same to you here. We hope you are having a wonderful time in Lagos.
Definitely.
Thank you. We have seen the Apex Bank reverse itself on the cash withdrawal limits, now raising weekly limits for individuals to 500,000 and 5 million for corporate bodies. What does this new position signpost for the policy generally?
Pressure. And I think the CBN came into a little bit of pressure, but I think the wrong pressure, because I thought they should be looking at the POS terminal and the ATM machine, because that is where ordinary Nigerians really patronize, not the rich or the middle class that will have about 500,000 in the bank and they can move in there, and there's a bank closer to them. The rural area, they deal with POS terminals and then they deal with ATM machines. So for me, I think that is where they should be looking at, not just raising the limit of just individuals to 500 and corporate to 1 million. I think they should also look at the POS terminal. In as much as I agree that the POS terminals have also be a conduit pipe for fraudulent activities, I think they should put a mark on them. They can increase it and maybe put a daily limit. And if you exceed that limit, you need to do some verification from the banks and from the CBN before such transaction can be approved. Outside of that, I think it's good that they've listened to the word of reason from people. And I think it's not a total somersault, but at least 500,000 a week for individual and 1 million for corporate. I think it's a starting point. As time goes on, definitely they might look at how they will reduce the limit in the future. But for now, I think it's a good move by the CBN.
Now let's talk about the new Naira notes. The new Naira notes are now in circulation, but it seems like banks are having problem with having those new Naira notes available, and they seem to be rationing the new Naira notes. Does this have any effect on our economy going forward?
It does. It does. It has an effect on the CBN as a corporate entity, because the CBN government made us to know that this note will be available for every Nigerian on the 15th. I even went ahead and launched it before that time with Mr. President. So definitely, it's not good news when you see you have those notes not being available, especially in the banking space. I think they should work on that. It's not good. It's not good. It will affect our confidence in what the CBN says, and also even in the international committee. We saw that coming because of the rush nature when they went about it, and the CBN governor assured us that those notes will be available. Now, up to this moment, they have not been able to provide those notes, and we have just about a month for them to do the magic to make sure those notes are available for Nigerians. But I think we still have up to January ending. The old notes will still be used hand in hand with the new note. I don't think it's cause for worry anything yet. But if we begin to get to the middle of January and we are still having these challenges, then it calls for worry.
Some analysts like yourself were of the opinion that the rationing may have been deliberate in a way to sort of stop people, especially those who are targeted, to have kept the bulk of this money from basically just bringing in the cash and taking them back in the new notes and returning them to their private votes. Do you envisage that this could have been deliberate, so that they end up having the bulk of this money in the bank rather than people just pass them through the system and sort of whitewash them and return them to the private votes?
I think if that was deliberate, the current policy of cashless have made it nonsense of those that are thinking like that, because what it means that every week as a corporate organization, you have to withdraw 1 million cash. Every week as an individual, you have to withdraw 500,000 cash. And then you will be doing that consistently. And if those people that are targeted are anything to go by, they don't withdraw just 5 million or 500,000 every week. They look for hundreds of millions. So definitely, I think I don't ascribe to that, but I believe that the CBN actually is doing that. Maybe they are planning to do that until the 9th of January, whereby they know that the cashless policy has come to stay. Then they might begin to bring out the new Naira note in their bulk. So that policy will help. I can't but agree with that partially, but going forward after the 9th of January, I think it will make no use for them if they are not able to perfect their heart. And remember that also now, any withdrawal that you are doing above 5 million for individuals or 10 million for corporate is supposed to be made known to security agencies like EFCC according to the Money Laundering Act. So definitely this is not a new policy, like I keep saying. It's just that we've not been able to implement what we usually have. There's no need for all this hula baloo that we're having about the new note, about the cashless policies. There are policies that have been there all this while, but have we been able to even maximize those that we put into law, like the 10 million and the 5 million? Have there been anybody that have been asked or called upon to give reason why he's withdrawing 5 million or to realize, to monitor those? I keep saying in developed economy in the world, when suddenly a man that has 1 million begin to have 2 million, that account is flagged and that account is investigated, even without the person knowing what is really happening there. So I think it boiled down to the banks and also the security agents. But I think basically it boiled down to the bank and CBN, because if they do what they ought to do, then the security agent will take it from there.
Let us take it that, or rather take into confidence the words of the FCC chairman who appeared recently before State House Corp, indicating that SCUMO, as we have currently today, would help us do some of those monitoring back end. But before I let you go, you will recall that the House of Rep had given today as the deadline for the governor to appear, even though he had written them to say he's still abroad because of a medical treatment. With these recent increments in the limit, do you think his appearance before the House of Rep is still necessary? Because it turns out that the Parliament seems to be the one that is head and shoulders against these new policies, and in fact calling for an outright cancellation of the policy. What's your perspective?
You and I know that the Parliament is doing what they ought to do, because we know it's a political year. They've not hide it. They've said it themselves. Remember the governor of, I think the governor of Adamawa State or Taraba States openly came out to castigate that policy that is targeted at politicians and parties. That is not possible for parties not to move cash. So we are not surprised with the type of noise that they are making. They need to know that there's a difference between the legislation, there's a difference between the judiciary, there's a difference between the executive. Everybody has its own rule according to the Constitution. The CBN has not gone outside the act in what they have done. The only way that the CBN has fault in their policies in the area of fine, because you cannot be the judge in your own matter. It's only that I think they have a fault. They need in the area of fine, you cannot be finding people. It's only the court that have the right to fine people based on on decision that has to do with and based on a national decision. So definitely that's the only way the CBN have gone wrong in placing fine, that if you are above against that limit, and that fine has been there since, and nobody have challenged it. If anybody have challenged it in court, the court would have ruled in their favor, because the CBN is not a court that would begin to fine behind people. So definitely, I think that's important for the act as regards policy. This is a monetary policy. It's not a physical policy. It's a monetary policy, and it's beyond them. For me, I think the noise is just noise. I appreciate if the CBN stands by their decision, but if by chance the CBN fall into pressure, it will be damaging to the economy. I can tell you that will give room for a lot of issues that we don't want to mention now.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar. Like you rightly said, let us see how far the central bank and by extension the federal government will stand by this policy, because it does appear that the president has thrown his full weight behind this particular decision. Thank you again, once again, for joining us from Lagos, and I wish you a traffic-free celebration in Lagos. Obviously,
it's not looking like that at the moment.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day, Mukhtar.
You too.